dear friends in Iraq and elsewhere, I want to start by saying how honoured and privileged I feel at being able to speak to you today on this 6th anniversary of the start of the genocide. Genocide that, of course, still goes on in some ways today against the Yazidi people and, as we heard earlier, other minorities in northern Iraq. You're gathered today to commemorate and to remember victims and the war crimes that were carried out. And we should therefore, of course, start by celebrating and saluting the bravery of the survivors and remembering those who are no longer with us. But I want to also stress that I believe that this commemoration, this event, also shows the strength of the Yazidi culture and the Yazidi communities. And that gives hope for the future. So we're not just commemorating the terrible events of the past, but in the title of your conference yesterday and today, we're also bridging a gap to humanity and to a much better future. But we need to call this for what it is. It was a genocide. It was planned. It was organised. It was executed. It didn't happen by accident. It wasn't the actions of a few rogue men, the deliberate attempt to wipe out a culture and communities. And I bring with me today, I hope, solidarity from the United Kingdom. Speak to you from Scotland. And those of us who have followed the work of Yazda and the other organisations over these past 6 years and who've raised with their own government and with others the need to do more, I want to assure you that we will never forget, that we continue to demand justice. We want to help rebuild the communities, and perhaps most of all, we want to prevent similar genocides happening again in the future. So can I congratulate Haidar and Murad, and of course Ahmed here in the UK, for their work as Yazda over these recent years and for organising this event today. And of course Lynn and the Higgian Partnership done such a fabulous job supporting Yazda and being the co-host of these commemorative panels and speeches over the last 2 days. I want to thank those who've contributed from other countries and agencies, and especially Karim Khan, who I think gave a very inspiring address yesterday, showing how important the work of his team and the United Nations is in uncovering evidence that can then be used in future prosecutions. But most of all, I want to salute the bravery, and perhaps even more importantly, the dignity of Farida and Diana, of Nasreen and Zina, and the other women from the Survivors Network who've spoken over these last 2 days. I am humbled by your actions and by your words and inspired by your bravery. And as other speakers have said, I want to assure you that we do not intend to let you down. We intend to continue to stand with you. I visited Duhok again last year, and although I was aware of the numbers and aware of the current situation, I was staggered to find the hundreds of thousands of people still in IDP camps after all these years. The conditions they were living in, the trauma they had gone through, the lack of psychological support services, as well as the lack of a potential for a safe return to Sinjar. The pain that was felt by thousands of women and girls still missing, and the damage done to young boys who were taken away and brainwashed by Daesh. The international community has done much over the last 6 years, and the Iraqi government has, of course, taken various actions that have been highlighted today and yesterday. But frankly, it's not enough. This is not good enough, as Murad said last night in the closing session. This has gone on too long. The support needs to be stronger. There needs to be more, not just resources, but real support for the survivors, for the IDPs, for a safe return, and for the services that are needed to rebuild communities. In the UK, there are many of us, members of both houses of Parliament, who continue to press our government to do all that it can. We support, on a cross-party basis in Parliament, the support from the UK in northern Iraq as elsewhere in Iraq for education, for safe returns and for humanitarian relief. And on a cross-party basis, we also support the UK government's leadership on preventing sexual violence and conflict, and the work that they have done over the past year with Nadia Murad in terms of developing the draft Murad Code for the collection of evidence in the future. But we are disappointed too. I salute the governments of Australia and Germany and France and others who have helped resettle so many Yazidi people into safe homes. Our government has not been good enough on that front yet, but we continue to press them. And I believe that as a member of the UN Security Council, with other major international nations, the UK and others should be doing much more to rescue and return those who are still missing. And we will continue to press our government to do its bit on that. The conference, the commemorative event yesterday and today, is titled Bridging providing that bridge between terror and humanity. And I think there are certain fundamentals that are needed if that is going to happen. You need both security and governance, better governance in Sinjar and the surrounding areas. You need services, both community services, but perhaps even more important, those personal services, including psychological support for those who have been traumatized. You need safe returns, not just of those who are missing, but of those hundreds of thousands who are still living in IDP camps and elsewhere in northern Iraq. And looking to the future, we need to start celebrating diversity more, not tolerating diversity, not just understanding each other, but celebrating the differences that make us all stronger in our individual countries and around the world. And it's only, I think, by understanding genocide and understanding the way in which it can be prevented that we will genuinely prevent atrocities and genocide in the future. And one key element of that has to be justice for real crimes, where the victims are heard and the survivors are heard, and where those who carried out those crimes are prosecuted for the crimes they carried out, not just for those that are easiest to prosecute. So I believe that justice and accountability is vital, not just for the survivors and those who've been killed in the Yazidi genocide, but also to prevent future genocides and ensure that others know that they will be held accountable for their crimes. And in all of that, the topic that we've had today, inspiring topic of women in peace building, is absolutely central. There is no doubt whatsoever around the world, in every continent, that peace processes, peace building and conflict prevention work that has women at the centre of it is more successful and more likely to be sustained. And there is absolutely no doubt that peace processes and peace building and conflict prevention work that does not have women at the centre of it is more likely to fail. So I sincerely hope that perhaps out of all this carnage and dismay and terror and horror that you have experienced, that perhaps Iraq could lead the way here and show an example in involving women and girls at every level of this rebuilding effort that has to take place. What a legacy that would be for the horrible events of these recent years. And I hope genuinely and sincerely that we can support you in achieving that. I hope the government of Iraq and the KRG government in Erbil will resolve their differences and ensure that they support you in rebuilding your communities and having a safer future. And I salute all the work that you have done so far, and want to just reiterate that we will stand with you again in the future.